Ladies, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to Robert's Sports Show. I'm your host, Robert. Alright, as we continue on the showcase of the Independence 2023 version, next up is Defy Wrestling. Defy Wrestling started in 2017. They're out of Seattle, Washington. They do a lot of shows in the Northwest. Again, a lot of the independent shows, companies here in 2023 are more like the territories were back in the 70s and 80s. You have the Defy of the Northwest. You have the West Coast Pro. You have the Prestige of the California, kind of the West Coast era. You have Northeast Wrestling, Bedlam, or Blitzkrieg Wrestling, Glory Pro out of the Midwest, Warrior Wrestling out of Chicago. You have so many just different regional independent companies that a lot of the talent will go back and forth between the different ones. So we're dealing with Defy Wrestling here. Defy started in 2017. The Defy World Champion is currently Swerve Strickland. Yes, Shane Swerve Strickland, whose house? Swerve's house. He is back home in Defy Wrestling in the Northeast. The Defy Women's Champion is Vert Vixen, and then the Defy Tag Team Champions, of course we know them across the Indies and across GCW. The Second Gear Crew, Mance Warner and Matthew Justins. Oh, Mancher's got himself a tag title. Yeah, one of my favorite tag teams of Game Changer Wrestling, the Second Gear Crew. So when we look at the 12 shows and 85 matches of 2022 for Defy, 74 men's, 11 women's, we're going to run down the top 20. The top 20 was 3 3/4 and higher. They had an additional 23 matches that were 3.5 star that didn't quite make the list. Matches such as Jonathan Gresham versus Cody Chung, Christopher Daniels versus Clark Connors, Christopher Daniels versus Titus O'Neil, Christopher Daniels versus Lee Moriarty, the Bollywood Boys versus State of Emergency Miles Devon and Sebastian Wolf, Eddie Kingston versus Cody Chung, Koshuk Takashita versus Shaft, Daniels and Swerve teaming up versus the Bollywood Boys. These are some of the matches, Bobby Fish and Yui Yaramura, that were great matches that were 3.5 stars that didn't quite make the top 20. So, number 20 on the list. Again, number 20 through number 11 are all 3 3/4 star matches. Any one of these can be number 20. Any one of these can be number 11. They're just not in any particular order. These are just the lump of the 3 3/4 star matches. So the number 20 on the list comes from Air Raid, which was December 17th. Titus Alexander versus the bad boy Joey Janela. Titus Alexander getting the victory. I gave it 3 3/4 star. From the same show, Air Raid, we had the returning Artemis Spencer versus Alex Shelley. Artemis Spencer getting the victory. I gave it 3 3/4 star due to some COVID regulations and some issues with travel. He hasn't been able to make any shows up until this point, and he was able to return. Next up, we had from the 5th anniversary show, which was February 22nd. Now, a lot of the Defy shows, they will divide up into 3 shows on the Defy on demand. Some of the shows like Air Raid, they did not. So it's kind of like some of these shows were like this show, for example, the 5th anniversary show was the 6th episode of 2023, no, 22, excuse me, but it was part of the 5th anniversary show. We had the Defy Worldwide Tag Team titles on the line. We had champions of the Midnight Heat, Eddie Pearl and Ricky Gibson, going up against the Bollywood Boys, Gurv Shera and Harv Shera, and the Bollywood Boys became tag team champions in a ladder match. I gave that 3 3/4 star. Now, February 22nd, from that 5th anniversary show, the Defy Interim World Heavyweight title was on the line. At this point in time, we haven't combined the titles yet. Artemis Spencer was the champion. Because of his travel issues, we were not able to kind of coincide those 2 titles. I was wrong about the Artemis Spencer match. That was his 2nd match back. So in November 26th at Fight Wave, that's when we were able to put the Defy World title and the Defy Interim World title back together. But here back in February, Christopher Daniels was your interim champion, taking on Nick fucking Wayne. Nick Wayne, Darby Allin, those are some of the guys that came to Defy Wrestling. You know, a 16-year-old kid called Nick Wayne started wrestling in Defy and made a name for himself around the world. He's the youngest wrestler to sign with AEW. Once he turns 18, I believe in July, we will see him on AEW television. But for now, he's on the indies. Here he was taking on the Fallen Angel, Christopher Daniels. Christopher Daniels did retain his interim championship in a 3 3/4 star match. Next up, we had from the episode Young Destroyers on July 4th, we had Adam Ryder versus Davey Richards, the Lone Wolf. Davey Richards getting the victory there, 3 3/4 star. From Young Destroyers, we had Daniel Garcia and Trey Miguel. Daniel Garcia, that sports entertainer here, getting the victory over Trey Miguel, a professional wrestler, 3 3/4 star match. From Death from Above on September 11th, we had the Defy Interim World Heavyweight Championship on the line. Champion, the Fallen Angel Christopher Daniels versus Ortiz. We had the Fallen Angel retaining the title, 3 3/4 star match. The next two both came from Kingdom Come, October 29th. We had Davey Richards, the Lone Wolf, taking on young Cody Chung. Davey Richards got the victory, but also earned the respect of Cody Chung and also gave respect to Cody Chung, the young kid, the next big thing in professional wrestling, at least in the Northwest, if not in all of professional wrestling. Cody Chung hung with the Lone Wolf. Davey Richards got the victory, gave it 3 3/4. Next up, we had from Kingdom Come, Minoru Suzuki taking on Tom Lawler. Whew, what a match and hard-hitting, striking match this was. Minoru Suzuki just scares the hell out of people. Yeah, this match was awesome. Minoru getting the victory, 3 3/4 star match. Next up, from Wild Ones on April 30th, the Defy Worldwide Tag Team titles on the line. The champions, the Bollywood Boys, Gurv and Harv Shira, taking on C4, Cody Chung, and Guillermo Rosas. The Bollywood Boys retaining their titles, 3 3/4 star match. Number 10 on the list, coming from the show Air Raid on December 17th, we had a triple threat match. Guillermo Rosas, El Fantasmo, and Jordan Oliver in a banger of a 3-way match, 4-star match. Guillermo Rosas, one half of C4, getting the victory there. Next up, from Young Destroyers, number 9 on the list, Nick Wayne versus Dante Martin. This was a high-flying spectacular with Nick Wayne getting the victory in a 4-star match. One of my favorite matches of the year, from The World Is Your Day once. On July 25th, we had Kaseku Takashita versus the Lone Wolf, Davey Richards. Takashita getting the victory in a 4-star match. I'm sorry, because of MJF, every time I say that name, I think of something else. If you're an AEW fan, you know what I'm talking about. Number 7 on the list comes from the City of Thorns, the Defy Interim World Heavyweight Championship on the line. Champion, the Fallen Angel Christopher Daniels versus one and only Shane Swerve Strickland. Swerve became the interim heavyweight champion on that day in a 4-star match. Next up came from Fright Wave, November 26th. We had the Defy World Championship Tag Team Championship on the line. We had the champions of Second Gear Crew, Mance Warner, Matthew Justice, taking on the Bollywood Boys. Mance Warner and Matthew Justice, the Second Gear Crew, retained their titles. Number 5 came from the 550 on March 14th. Ethan HD versus Titus Alexander. Like I have said in some other companies with Titus Alexander, he had a banger of a match versus Will Ospreay earlier this year. From that point on, he went from here to here. I think he is going to have a breakout year in 2023. He pretty much did in the last half of 22. But a 4.5-star banger here against Ethan HD, Titus Alexander getting the victory. Number 4 on the list comes from Fight Wave. We had a ladder match. This is when we had both titles on the line. We had the Defy World title and the Defy Interim World title to crown a unification match here to crown the unified Defy World Heavyweight Champion. We had the champions, Shane Strickland and Randy Myers. I was thinking Artemis Spencer had the title. My bad. Randy Myers had the title at that time. It was Strickland, Randy Myers, the two champions, along with Artemis Spencer, Christopher Daniels, Cody Chung, and Shaft. Swerve Strickland was able to climb the ladder and become the unified World Heavyweight Champion. 4 1/4. I gave that match. Next up, number 3 on the list from Air Raid, we had El Hero del Vikingo versus Nick Wayne. El Hero del Vikingo, AAA fame, AEW fame, GCW. He's been around the world. He is at the time, I believe he was the mega champion for AAA. Taking on Nick Wayne in a 4 1/2 star classic banger of a match. Vikingo getting the victory there. Number 2 on the list comes from Defy 50 on March 7th. Swerve Strickland versus Nick Wayne. Swerve getting the victory, 4 1/2 star match. And then number 1 on the list comes from Defy Wild Ones, Jon Moxley versus Filthy Tom Lawler. Mox getting the victory, 4 1/2. You could put any of those matches, El Hero del Vikingo and Nick Wayne, Swerve and Nick Wayne, or Mox and Lawler. Any one of those is going to be number 1. Any one of those maybe number 2 and number 3. They just happen to fall on the list the way they did. But those are the 20 best matches of Defy Wrestling 2022. As we continue with the showcase of the independents, thanks for watching Robert Sports Show, and don't just have a great day. Have a spiffy day. Robert Sports Show, your YouTube leader in sports center content.